Welcome back to Atlanta United in England in our fourth season in the Save, our second year in the Premier League. And we have actually already reached the World Cup break for the 2022 Winter World Cup. So this episode is going to be divided. Right now, we're just going to kind of catch up on what's happened this season so far because we haven't had a video since our first game of the year where we had an amazing 4-0 win. And things have kind of gone downhill since then. But we will recap what has happened so far at the beginning of the season. And then I'm going to sim through the World Cup, and then we'll just kind of go back through and take a look at what happened in the World Cup. We'll look through the U.S. games. We'll look at some of the more overall takeaways as well. And it is interesting. We'll take a look right now before I do the sim as to like kind of what the setup is, what teams qualified, and that kind of thing, because it is a bit interesting. I've already taken a look. But let's talk about what has happened. So as you can see, we are in 13th in the Premier League. It's not been a great start, not a good start at all. 4 wins, 2 draws, 7 losses, only 14 points through 13 games. We're 7 points out of where we want to be, which is in this 7th spot to qualify for the Europa League next year. It's not the end of the world. Obviously, there's still a ton of games left to play. And to be honest, when you make big transfers in this game, like we did, we had, Erling Haaland came in. As you can see, he's actually been amazing. He's been one of the bright spots for us this year. And then we also brought in Ibrahima Konate and then one other playmaker, Eric Ramirez. And those are players that we've tried to integrate into our first team immediately. And typically when you try to do that in this game, the more players you try to stick into your starting 11 immediately right from the get-go, you're just going to have a little bit of a slower build-up. I feel that's just been my experience playing this game. And that's definitely what's happened to us this season. If we look at the schedule, it's not pretty. We actually had an amazing preseason. We had great results there, but that doesn't matter at all. And honestly, the worst part is if you look at the schedule, like look where we are in the Carabao Cup. We've actually been winning all these games. We actually had an amazing 3-2 win over Man City. So we've definitely been a cup team so far this year, but our Premier League record has not been good really at all. It's been pretty ugly, and it's been really frustrating to play these games. We've given up lots of goals from set pieces, and I gotta say, one of the players that's really let me down this year that I have kind of big upped a lot through this save has been Jack Butland. He has been really bad. He has not made saves when I feel like he should be making saves, but even worse is the distribution. The distribution has been terrible. There's been 3 or 4 goals I can think of just off the top of my head where his goal kicks have gone right to an opponent and they've gone straight down the field on us and scored because our players are out of position on a goal kick to defend that kind of thing. So really, really bad season from him, and I'm now thinking of moving him on. He's not a player I was thinking about moving on, but he's 29 years old, and again, we can see his distribution is not great. We might be able to just find a goalkeeper that can suit our style a little bit better. At the beginning of the save, we didn't really need someone that was a goalkeeper that was super technical. We didn't need anything special. We just kind of needed a shot stopper, and that's exactly what Jack Butland is. And now I'm just thinking we might need someone, a goalkeeper that's a little bit more nuanced in the position, a little bit more modern, so to speak. So that's been a major disappointment. The good news is, in the Carabao Cup, hey, it's not totally bad that we're still in it. We our next game is against Swansea in the quarterfinals, and there's only a few more big teams left in it. Obviously, we've already knocked off Man City, so hopefully we have some magic there, and maybe we can at least lift a trophy. I mean, I always want to lift a trophy. It's not, it's not the my primary goal in this season is to do well in these cups, but anyway, that's what's been going on. Let's take a look at the World Cup situation and see what teams are in and what teams did not make it, which there was actually one that really surprised me. All right, so first let's just go through the groups and take a look at them. Group A, we've got Ivory Coast, Jamaica, Paraguay, and Qatar. Probably one of the easiest World Cup groups in recent memory that I can think of, at least. You'd think Ivory Coast and Paraguay, definitely the favorites to come out of that one. Obviously, this one's kind of weakened, kind of like the one in South Africa was, Group A in South Africa, when you just have a host nation that's not really a footballing powerhouse. So you've got Qatar in there as kind of like one of the top seeds, or at least they're probably the worst team by the rankings in this in the World Cup, and they're in this group. So interesting one there. Whoops. Austria, Belgium, Uruguay, and Wales in Group B. You'd think Belgium and Uruguay are probably the clear favorites to make it out of that one. Denmark, England, Peru, and South Korea in Group C. Again, you'd think England and Denmark and Peru. And hey, let's throw South Korea in there. They've got some good players as well. All 3 of those teams could contend for that second spot. Group D, we've got the Congo, France, Sweden, and the USA. So here's the USA's group. Pretty tough. Sweden did really well in World Cup qualifying. I was taking a look earlier, so that will be a battle. And hey, you never know. Congo actually has some talented players as well. Argentina, Ireland, Japan, and Senegal in Group E. Argentina clearly the favorite there, and then it's probably going to be a battle between Senegal and Japan for the second spot, but we'll see how that one turns out. Germany, Holland, Mexico, and Tunisia in Group F. Really tough one there for Mexico. They draw Germany and the Netherlands. Tunisia stands no chance. Any point that they gain is going to be a huge loss to whoever they get it from. Group G will be Costa Rica, Italy, Mali, and Portugal. Italy and Portugal almost surely to be the teams that come out of that group, but Mali could throw a wrench into that. And then Group H is Brazil, Iran, Spain, and Ukraine. And that wraps up all of the World Cup teams. So can you think of any that didn't make it? Some interesting ones. Let's take a look. Well, I'll just tell you right off the bat, and then we'll kind of take a look at the tables. Croatia was a big one that didn't make it from Europe. They're typically a team that you would think would make it, but their golden generation is kind of expired or expiring. When you think of guys like Luka Modric, just a lot of talented players are kind of aging a bit. They do still have a lot of young talented players in this game. I'm really kind of surprised that they did not make it. But for our viewers, maybe the bigger one that didn't make it is Colombia, which really surprised me. It's really a shame because we've got a guy who would have been starting for them in Jean Lukumi. So kind of disappointing because I wish some of our players would be playing in this World Cup. I haven't taken a close look. I mean, I'm sure we will have some, but I haven't quite looked yet. I mean, I'm sure for the USA we'll probably have. I'm just trying to think. George Bello will certainly play for the USA. We'll take a look at that a little bit later. But let's look at some of the tables. So here is how the qualifying ended in Europe. Norway also didn't make it, so Erling Haaland will not be participating in the World Cup, which again is a shame. I would have loved to see how he performed in it. Serbia, a lot of those Balkan nations did not do well. Iceland didn't make it this time, although they're not someone you would think would be a favorite to make it. Again, look here, Albania, Montenegro, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Ireland, Denmark making it, Czech Republic not making it. They're a pretty decent team typically. Slovenia, again, is a team that's been in the World Cup in the recent past that didn't make it. Turkey did not make it. Romania did not make it. They're a team that has a lot of talented players, I feel like. I pick up Romanian players quite a bit in this game. They didn't make it. Switzerland didn't make it. They're a team that usually is in the World Cup. Russia, obviously, they hosted the last World Cup, which they were in. Didn't make it this time. They also have some talented players. And Greece. Okay, here we go. Austria and Croatia not making it either, and Hungary. So, yeah, kind of tough, especially for Croatia. I mean, if we look at their team, they've got some really, really good players. Like this Nikola Vlasic guy is one of the best players I've come across in my scouting reports in the game. But as you can see, they've still got Luka Modric. They've still got Ivan Rakitic on their squad as key players. So, tough one for them. I'm just surprised that they didn't make it. Let's take a look at South America, though. So here we are, South America. You can see Argentina topped the CONMEBOL table, followed really closely by Brazil, only beating them out by a point. And then it was kind of the best of the rest, and it's Uruguay and Paraguay who come in with the automatic qualifying spots. Peru did get through the playoffs. I think they beat China. Oh no, they beat New Zealand. Here it is. Peru beat New Zealand. Costa Rica beat China to qualify. So Peru made it. Colombia did not make it, and honestly, they were 5 points off the place to make that playoff game, so not super close. Chile, also another team that typically is in there, didn't make it. Venezuela did not make it, which is unfortunate for them because in real life they have a really nice crop of players coming through their team, and it would have been fun to see Joseph in it as well. He probably will not get another chance to qualify for the World Cup considering his age. I think he'll be 32 or 33 during the next one, so. Unfortunate there, and then Bolivia at the bottom, only picking up one single point through 18 games. Yikes. So, kind of surprising there. Not a lot surprising in CONCACAF. I'm not going to go through that. USA made it. Mexico made it. That's pretty much. Costa Rica made it. The teams you would expect to make it, made it. So, anyway, I'm going to fast forward now. We're going to go through the end of the World Cup, but I'll try to reveal it not in a way so that we can kind of go through it from the beginning, kind of just see what happened. It's going to be fun. Let's take a look. All right, welcome back. We are actually now one day past the end of the World Cup, and it was not a good one for the United States. It was a historic World Cup with it being played in winter, and actually we had a historic result with the winner of the World Cup, and we'll get to that in a second. First, let's take a look at what happened to the United States. They actually ended up finishing at the bottom of their group. They lost to France 1-0 in the opening game. Then got a 2-2 draw against Sweden, which was not, obviously the ideal result, but it actually still left them with a chance to advance to the knockout rounds in the last game. If they were to have beaten Congo, Sweden was playing France, which is a game that they would end up losing. They needed to catch up the 3 points against Sweden and make up the goal differential, so I think they would have needed to beat the Congo by 2 goals. Instead, they lost by a goal to the Congo in the last game, so that cost Greg Berhalter his job, actually. If we look at the U.S. head coaches, we can see that Greg Berhalter was sacked yesterday in the game, which was the day of the final. So sacked on World Cup final day. Not a good day for Greg Berhalter. Not a whole ton to report. George Bello played in most of the games. The team played in a 4-4-2, as we can see, Sergiño Dest, George Bello were the fullbacks, Matt Miazga, and Austin Trusty starting at center back. Actually, no, it was a 5-4-1. Cameron Carter-Vickers here. I don't know why he's being labeled as a central midfielder, but he obviously played as a center back. And, just not a good performance from anybody on the team, really. And it'll be interesting to see who they hire next. I would be interested to see. I would be interested to take the job if we didn't just have so much going on with Atlanta United in this save and it kind of being Atlanta United focused. I still think, this is something I was looking at when it comes to my youth intake players. I still get youth intake from America, not from England. So that's one of the reasons if we were to look at some of our standings in the under 18s and under 23s, we're actually not performing well at all because the game codes American players as, they're just not generally going to be as good and have as much potential as players from England. So we are kind of, especially in the U18s, we're set down a peg. But it would be kind of cool to use that to kind of filter those players through the United States and see if we can get the United States to have some better results through the players that we are developing through our own team. So pretty interesting. Sweden was a 2-2. I haven't even actually looked at some of these games. So Matt Miazga and DeAndre Yedlin with the goals for the United States. Looks like that's crushing. They were in a position to lead, and Sweden got the equalizer in the 5th minute of added time. That is brutal. That's kind of a replay of the U.S. versus Portugal in 2014 when Ronaldo sent in that cross. I can't even remember who scored it right at the end for a 2-2 result in that game. So pretty brutal there. Oh, look at Keaton Parks winning the man of the match. We're obviously very familiar with him. 6 key passes. Nice game for him. George Bello was taken out of this game in the 79th minute. Christian Pulisic subbed in the 45th minute, and it doesn't look like, Weston McKennie was sent off. I'm not sure if this was an injury or what, but that is wild for him to be sent off at that point of the game. It looks like DeAndre Yedlin came in for him. I don't know if they decided to go to change the formation or what, but that is an interesting move by Greg Berhalter, and maybe one of the reasons why he's no longer in a job in this FM save. And we'll go to the Congo game here as well. Looks like Josie scored a consolation goal here in the 4th minute of added time to get the United States on the scoreboard, but it wasn't enough. Congo had scored 2 goals, obviously, so tough one for the United States. Here's the full game now that it's loaded up. Not a whole lot to report. Christian Pulisic was injured in this game, so he left in the 76th minute. And did George Bello play in this one? Does not look like he did. That is interesting. Looks like he's not even in the squad. I wonder if he got injured in training or something, because it didn't look like he was injured in the previous game, but that's an interesting one. So, not a good result for the United States. Will be interesting to see who their next manager is. But in the meantime, let's take a look at how the rest of the World Cup played out here. Let's just go through the groups here. Really interesting result here. Jamaica actually qualifying on top of the group with 5 points in Group A. Paraguay missing out with Miguel Almiron on the team. I actually saw he had the 3rd highest average rating of any player in the World Cup. Miguel Almiron did. Let's see if we can take a look at their results. 1-1 against Ivory Coast. I want to see if Oh, did I see Tito there? Oh, that's in a friendly. Miguel Almiron did score against the Ivory Coast, getting a 1-1. Scored the equalizer there. He had 2 more goals against Qatar in a drubbing. Qatar did not pick up a point in this group and did not pick up a goal in the third game, a 3-3 draw against Jamaica. Jamaica led by Leon Bailey, obviously a very highly touted player in real life, and in this game he performed very well. Belgium and Australia went through. Australia getting the upset over Uruguay, going through on even points, but just edging them out on goal differential. I mentioned South Korea. I thought they might have a chance. They did get in to the groups, or to the knockout stage, along with England. France and Sweden, as we know, went through. In the United States group, Argentina and Senegal go through. Japan misses out there. They were probably the ones I would actually have thought Ireland would finish bottom of that group. Holland and Germany go through. Mexico misses out. Pretty much a straightforward set of results there. No draws. 9-6, 3, and 0 points for those 4 teams. Portugal and Italy go through. Similarly, 9-6, 3, 0. Mali was only able to pick up the 1 win against Costa Rica. Tough one for Costa Rica, losing all 3 of their games. And Iran gets through to the knockout stage over Spain. Wow, that is amazing. Spain finishing bottom of the group, only picking up 1 point, and same goal differential as Iran, who goes through to the next stage. That is really disappointing. They've got some rebuilding to do. Spain does. That is shocking, to be honest. Okay, so we know how the group settled out. Let's go through to the tree of the knockout stages and see how everything shook out. Okay, I take it back. I'm not going to show the tree yet because I don't want to give away the winner. Let's just take it round by round, even though this is not the ideal way to kind of display this. Jamaica goes through to the quarterfinals over Australia with a 2-2 result. They win it on penalties, so that's really cool. Jamaica's got to be the feel-good team of this World Cup. Ivory Coast going through over Belgium with a huge 4-1 drubbing of Belgium, a team that's very, very talented. By the way, we had 3 players participating in this World Cup. One of them did play for the Ivory Coast in Cedric Kipre. The other 2 were Mikola Shaparenko for Ukraine, and then, of course, George Bello for the United States. Jonathan Gonzalez did not make the squad for Tata Martino's Mexican team, which was interesting. I got a message that he was like a late snub from the team, so tough to see that one. England goes through over Sweden 3-1, pretty standard result there. Same for France over South Korea, 3-1 result for them. Big result for Argentina, getting a little revenge against Germany in the World Cup final from a couple years ago. Argentina going through over Germany. Holland going through over Senegal, probably pretty predicted there. 3-0 win for the Netherlands. Portugal going through over Iran and won a game that was maybe a little closer than they would have expected. And then a huge matchup here in the first knockout round, Italy versus Brazil. Italy goes through. That is pretty surprising to me. Brazil is a very, very talented team. They've got, obviously we all know about all the superstars that play for Brazil, but in this game they've got tons of young players coming through too in the Brazilian league. I guess those players probably aren't even playing at this stage, at the top level of the World Cup. But still, crazy to see them go out so early in the competition. So we get to the quarterfinals. France goes through with a big win over Jamaica. The run ends for Jamaica, and in dominant fashion for France. England goes through over the Ivory Coast, so our last player involved in the competition gets knocked out against the Englishmen. Argentina goes through to the, They'd be going through to the semifinal with a big win over Italy, who knocked out Brazil earlier. So Argentina kind of reigning as the South American pride in the tournament. And then Holland going through again in extra time over Portugal, 1-0. So we're really getting down to the cream of the crop here, especially now that Jamaica's out. Let's see what happened in the semifinal. I haven't really been through this. I only know what the final was. Okay, so we have Holland going through over France in penalties. Wow, what a game that would be. What a game that would be. And then England knocking off Argentina. What a huge matchup with the history between these two countries in the semifinals. Man, can you imagine this? Oh, I'm just thinking about a World Cup with this kind of semifinal, and man, so good. I feel like the last couple World Cups, you like to see the underdogs kind of make it through, but you also love to see just these big powerhouse teams go at it in the finals. Like, it was weird last year, or the last World Cup with Croatia. So I said it was a historic World Cup with it being played in the winter, but also for another reason, and that is because the winner of the World Cup in 2022 is the Netherlands, with it 1-0 win in extra time over England. And as we can see, it was who scored the goal? Ryan Gravenberch, who Tottenham just signed in this game this season, with the winner in the 110th minute to give Holland the World Cup title. And you can take a look at some of the lineups that these teams have. Holland's team, I was actually surprised Jaden Braaf did not make the Dutch team. I still think he probably could have been in over some of these guys on the bench, but you can see, based on their starting lineup, why it would have been so tough for him to get in. Calvin Stings, amazing player. Very, very good. This guy, Mo, is, oh gosh, Hatteran, amazing. Just an amazing player. And you can take a look at England's team. Jordan Pickford, Max Aaron starting at right back for them. Joe Gomez, Tamori, the guy who's coming through at Chelsea right now, starting at center back for England. Ben Chilwell, Jordan Henderson still somehow playing, starting for England. Phil Foden, who was amazing in this game, still playing for Man City, and just a fantastic playmaker. Marcus Rashford, Harry Kane, and I had not heard of this guy, Nketiah. I guess he's on Arsenal, kind of coming through the Arsenal setup right now. I guess he would be a teenager in real life. Yeah, so you can see some of the squad there. But interesting World Cup, and interesting that Greg Berhalter was fired as the U.S. coach, so it will be interesting to see who will replace him. So that kind of wraps up the World Cup coverage. Did want to mention, I would have been simming through this kind of going on vacation is what they call it, just to kind of sim through these days in bulks to get through this. And we actually got a little bump. We got like £15 million to spend from the transfer. From Darren Eales. So we have a little bit more money to spend, and that's good because I have been wanting to make a purchase. And the position I'm going to be looking at is a defensive midfielder, a real defensive rock that I can just sit in front of my back two and not have to worry about them. We've been leaking goals all year, and we have the attacking players. I said this going into this transfer window, scoring goals is really not the issue for us. It's not giving up the goals. And so I want to bring in a defensive midfielder that can just hold things down. We've got some guys like Jonathan Gonzalez, Amadou Diawara, who are defensive-ish, and but neither are guys that are like big, strong physical presences that I would want to kind of be anchoring that back line. So that's the kind of player I'm thinking right now that I want to try to go out and get. All depends on if there's one available that is kind of in our price range, which it can be difficult for that kind of profiled player. Typically, they're more veteran, older players, and those tend to cost a little bit more, and we've obviously spent on lots of young players in this save, and that's just kind of my tendency in general. So if we can find that player, I would love to add them. If we can find that player maybe cheaply, we could also add some more youngsters to throw into our U23 development setup to see if we can just kind of get that pipeline rolling again. Another thing I should mention about that is that I have fully staffed up these staffs, and hopefully that will help us get some better players through in recruitment, and then also help develop them, obviously. And you can see I really went and just bought the best ones available. These gold bars mean that we have the best coaches in those areas: attacking, defending, fitness, mental, and we've just got some really quality coaches there. So things are looking up. It won't be too long. We have some big games coming up, and we've got a ton of games just coming up in rapid succession. With the break, if we look at our January schedule, look at that. I think 7 or 8 games. I think the Carabao Cup may be an 8th game. Depth could be an issue for us. It really could. It's going to be a struggle here, but hopefully we can get through. We've got a lot of guys complaining that they haven't gotten game time because we've had all this off time. I've scheduled some friendlies as well in the meantime to just try to keep the legs fresh and everything. So hopefully, by the time we get to the meat of our schedule here, Man City, Arsenal, we will still be good to go. So, look at January. Huge games with Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal, Man United. it's going to be crazy. So we will get back with you probably sometime in January, probably for this Man City, Arsenal, Man United, kind of somewhere in that realm. So until then, we will see you guys in the next video.